Have you ever been treated like you didn't matter? Like no matter how hard you tried, someone was determined to make your life miserable? That was me. Fresh out of grad school, excited to start my teaching career, and ready to change young lives. And yet, within the first few weeks, I realized I was dealing with someone whose sole mission was to crush me. But what happened next? Let's just say, revenge tastes better when it's meticulously planned. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or pushed to your limits by someone in power, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Today, I'm taking you on a story of betrayal, frustration, and one of the most satisfying acts of justice you'll ever hear. I was in my mid-20s, fresh out of grad school, and brimming with excitement. I had landed a teaching job at a Title I elementary school, a stone's throw from my apartment, teaching art. Walking to work, pure bliss. I imagined a year filled with creativity, laughter, and young minds growing under my guidance. I had no idea that the first storm was already brewing, hidden beneath the surface of what should have been my dream job. A week before school started, I eagerly reached out to my school's office and my principal, asking about picking up my keys and badge so I could prepare my classroom. Days went by, no response. I tried again, still nothing. Feeling anxious, I called the district office. Finally, 2 days before school began, I received a curt email from my principal admonishing me for being impatient and telling me I shouldn't have contacted anyone outside her office. I froze. My excitement faltered, replaced by unease. Why this hostility before I even set foot in the school? When I finally gained access to my classroom, the horror hit me. The room had been turned into a storage warehouse. Tables and desks were stacked like obstacles in a video game. 8 filing cabinets sat blocking pathways. Over 100 chairs teetered in precarious piles, threatening to topple with the slightest touch. I spent hours clearing, organizing, and creating space to teach, aided only by the custodian's quiet encouragement. I remember thinking, okay, hurdle 1 survived. I can do this. But little did I know, this was just the beginning. On the first day of classes, I still hadn't been given a schedule. Which class was at what time? Who knew? I sent an email to my principal, seeking clarity. Within minutes, a reply appeared. I was pressuring and bullying her. My stomach sank. I reread it. Bullying? How could asking about my own schedule possibly be considered bullying? I typed back cautiously, apologizing if I made her feel pressured and gently asking again for my schedule. Silence. Then the chaos of the day arrived. By 8:10 a.m., I discovered I was assigned 2 classes at the same time. 46 children in one room, a 7-period day, and a 30-minute lunch slot squeezed between lunch duty and teaching. Panic churned in my chest, but I took a deep breath and told myself, this is the first year. I can handle this. I tried speaking to my principal, hoping for a compromise, but she yelled at me in front of waiting students, insisting I simply deal with it. My face burned, my hands trembled. But instead of giving in, I dug into the teacher's contract. There it was. Any classroom over 30 students should have an educational assistant. I presented it to her. She shot me down, citing budget constraints. Quit or adapt? The words echoed in my mind. Adapt. That's exactly what I did. From 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., weekdays, and every spare moment on weekends, I planned lessons, graded papers, and prepared my room. Every ounce of energy I had went into giving my students the education they deserved. Exhaustion became my constant companion. Anxiety gnawed at me. Doubt whispered, am I going to survive this? Weeks passed. My evaluation came. Satisfactory across the board. Shock and disbelief mingled with a simmering anger. I realized then that my principal's plan had been deliberate. Overwhelm me, push me to the brink, and then point to my failings. When I reached out to the union about double classes and unsafe student numbers, their promises to help were empty. Weeks turned into months. I felt powerless, misunderstood, betrayed. Then, a seemingly ordinary evening changed everything. I attended a potluck with old friends, laughing and relaxing, trying to escape the stress of school. I casually mentioned the chaos in my classroom, the double classes, the endless planning, the kids I couldn't give enough attention. That's when my friend's husband raised an eyebrow and asked the school I worked at. I told him, not thinking much of it. And then he dropped the bombshell. He was the supervising administrator for my school district, my principal's boss. My jaw went dry. My pulse raced. My mind spun. Every injustice I had endured suddenly had a potential path to justice. Following Monday, my principal stormed into my classroom screaming, threatening to ruin my career. My chest tightened. Rage boiled beneath the surface, but I stayed calm. I had discovered a hidden ally in her boss, a powerful, patient, and observant one. And with that, the plan began to take shape. Phase 1 was subtle. I had my students create comic books about their experiences, capturing the chaos and manipulation they had witnessed. Innocent, creative work. Yet the stories revealed the principal's malice. Phase 2 involved formal documentation. I requested that every observation be accompanied by her supervising administrator. When she walked in, ready to assert control, he sat beside her with a laptop, meticulously recording every misstep, her fumbling attempts at authority laid bare. She faltered, confused, unprepared, her confidence shattered. Phase 3, I monitored, her attendance, capturing her habitual lateness and the gaps in her administrative duties. Calls, observations, and documentation built an irrefutable case. Every time she underestimated me, she unwittingly contributed to her own downfall. Phase 4 involved the parents. I informed families about a free after-school care program that their children qualified for, something my principal had kept secret to maintain control. Word spread. Parents were outraged. Complaints mounted. Her carefully constructed power base began to crumble. By the second half of the year, investigations from central administration, auditors, and the union's intervention made her actions visible. Her attempts to control me failed. My teacher. Support plan was removed, and her authority over evaluations was revoked. I watched as her influence waned, powerless to affect the creative growth of my students. They flourished. Their art, their comic books, their engagement. It was a direct contrast to the stifling environment she tried to enforce. The climax came at the end of the school year. She attempted one last maneuver, telling me my position was at risk due to budget issues. I laughed, knowing the truth. My position was secure, funded by state bonds. I walked out, leaving her behind, fuming, powerless. The final touch of poetic justice? One of my students performed their comic book at the school talent show, highlighting her manipulation. Parents were enraged. A shoe may have been thrown. And 2 years later, I discovered she had to leave the district, eventually settling in a faraway school, her career trajectory permanently altered. The lesson? Never underestimate those you seek to control. Never mistreat the dedicated, the passionate, the resilient. Because one day, the tables will turn, and justice, sweet, patient, and meticulously executed, will prevail. In the end, it wasn't just revenge. It was a lesson in resilience, strategy, and the power of doing the right thing while being underestimated. Karma has a way of finding those who deserve it, and sometimes justice comes in ways you could never anticipate, but it's always satisfying. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of triumph over betrayal, injustice, and toxic authority figures. You won't want to miss a single one.